introduce you to, if you don't already know, my colleague, Dr. Alejandro Pickett. And we're really happy to be able to present to you our fourth and last OSCQR webinar in our series. And at the end of the session, I'll give you the dates for fall if anybody needs to catch up on something, and also the recording link if there was a session that you may have missed. So Alex, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Erin. And thank you everyone for joining us and taking time out of your day to come learn about implementing and scaling an OSCQR quality review and refresh process. Really happy and thrilled to be able to be here today to talk with you about this. If you were here last time, which was a couple of weeks ago, you'll remember that my computer crashed and I was unable to get back in to the session. My computer was actually dead for days, and I was, without a computer, using my husband's computer, just kind of running around at a loss for not having my equipment. But anyway, we're back today, and I'm really happy to be able to do this final webinar in our series that we do every semester. If you are just joining, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself in the chat, we're hoping to learn a little bit more about you so we know who's in the room and what your role might be, your institution, where you might be physically. I always like to ask how you're doing, and maybe any other details that you'd like to give us. As Erin mentioned, I am the director of online teaching at SUNY Online. I work at the system level for those of you who may not be within SUNY. SUNY is a large state publicly funded university system of 64 institutions. And Erin and I both work at the system level, helping our campuses and our instructional design colleagues and faculty to we develop a bunch of resources and materials and tools to help our campuses and instructional designers and faculty do what they're doing online more effectively, hopefully more efficiently, and to just fill in gaps wherever they might be needed across our system. So for me, as Erin also mentioned, I just defended, or I think I was talking with Alex, just successfully defended my dissertation, which was a very long journey for me, and I'm really thrilled to be done with the paper. And over the years, I started here at SUNY with a grant to try to understand this online asynchronous learning thing, and that was 30 years ago. And I'm still here developing tools and services and resources, many of them openly licensed, most of them if I can, to help campus leaders, instructional designers, faculty, and others, like I said, do their jobs a little more effectively, a little more efficiently, to understand better how people can teach and learn well online. And OSCQR is one of those tools. So I want to mention before we get going, I have all the materials for this presentation posted in a Google folder. And the Google folder has that bit.ly URL, which is case sensitive. And my friend and colleague Erin will post that link in the chat for you. So you don't have to worry about screen captures or URLs or anything. It's all in the folder, and everything that I'm going to show you is in the folder. Let me just show you what the folder looks like. It's here. So it's got a whole bunch of stuff in it, including the presentation, which is the one that I have highlighted here. So anything that you're going to see today, you'll find in this folder. Another doc that I'll point you to is the one called OSCQR Implementation Plan Workshop Links. It's this one here, and this is what it looks like. It's just a Google Doc with all of the links labeled and documented. So anything that you will see today will be a link on this page. So I just don't want you to worry that miss something. It's all documented here for you. So the first thing that I want to do is kind of go over the agenda and make sure that you're in the right place with the expectations for what we're going to talk about today. So we are going to do a brainstorming activity to help initiate the process of building your own implementation plan. And that will be a collaborative activity that we'll do in a second. Then you're going to get your implementation plan, make a copy of it that then belongs to you so that you can, after this session, begin to use it, modify it to address the focus of the implementation plan with your specific context. So you may be wanting to do a focused initiative around accessibility, let's say, of all of your online courses. So you could focus your implementation plan on that. You could focus it on regular and substantive interaction, for example, also, or just do some sort of general online course quality improvement implementation plan across a larger scale set of courses or programs. So this workshop is intended to provide you with a framework and some tools and some templates that will help you to design an implementation plan for whatever purpose you would like to use it for, understanding that it's basically around using OSCQR in multiple ways to help improve the quality of the online instructional design of the online courses that you have. What this workshop is not intended to do is to show you how to conduct a course review or how to use OSCQR or how to use the OSCQR tools. It really is intended to give you the tools to create a plan for that larger scale targeted online course quality initiative. So I want to make sure to level set that expectation. We have other workshops that we offer that are more specific to the use of the OSCQR rubric and doing course reviews and so forth. So if you're interested in those topics, I invite you to come back again next semester when we will be doing the series again. And if that is too long to wait, we have all of the workshops from this semester recorded and in our YouTube channel. And Erin, at some point, will put a link to that in the chat. In addition to getting your plan and copying it for you, you're also going to get a brief tour of the OSCQR website and a demo of the dashboard and a little bit of a demo of the rubric, just so that you know what the tools are that are out there that you can leverage with implementing this larger scale implementation plan. You'll get some badges for attending this session. And if you're like me, you love badges. And if not, you don't have to accept them. But I just want to let you know that those are available. We also will invite you to join our community, either from within SUNY or external to SUNY. We have a couple of different roles that you can that you are qualify for as a friend of SUNY or as someone experienced within the SUNY community. And then there'll be some maybe additional resources and information that we will share with you at the end of the session. So I think that's it for the overview. I just, wanted to make sure that you're aware that our goal is to ensure quality in all online courses and provide tools and processes to support the regular and systematic review and continuous improvement of online course and program offerings using the most current understanding of how people teach and learn well online. So that's our objective. Those are our objectives. And to be able to share that within SUNY and outside of SUNY, so folks don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so you have some materials and tools and documentation that you can use to help you in your everyday work with faculty, or with if you're an administrator, in that capacity as well, or an instructional designer. So those are our intentions. For those of you who are not familiar with OSCQR, can I see like a show of hands in the chat, for people who are not familiar with OSCQR? Can you just say something in the chat?
It's looking overwhelmingly like many people are familiar with OSCQR.
Okay, so that's what that means, that everyone is familiar already with OSCQR. So that being the case, I'm not going to show the video, because if you already are familiar with OSCQR, then you already know some of the unique aspects of OSCQR, what it's intended to do, what it's not intended to do, and how it's unique perhaps from other rubrics. So I'm just going to go right on. So here's the video. And one of the reasons I want to make sure to point out the video is because when you're doing, and Aaron will put the link to the chat, to this video in the chat. It's also, like I said, in that folder. But when you're trying to explain OSCQR either to those above you or to those you may be working with, this video, it's 5 minutes, and it very succinctly describes what it is, what it does, and how it's different from other rubrics, perhaps. So I just want to make sure that you're aware that this is one of the tools that you can use if you're thinking about a larger scale OSCQR implementation plan. You can show this video, for example, at a departmental meeting, or at a faculty meeting, or at a professional development day that you might have for your faculty, or to your administrators if you're trying to get buy-in from them. It's a very nice, succinct way of helping to introduce folks to OSCQR. So, you know, like I said, it's unique from other rubrics, in that it is not intended to. It doesn't. You can't fail OSCQR. It's intended to support a culture of continuous online course design improvement. So so you can't fail it. It's really to help instructors either self-assess, or with the help of an instructional designer, or with peer faculty, to look at their courses and see what's working and what needs to be improved. And if something needs to be improved, what you could do to improve on a particular standard. So it's a framework that allows you to look at a course critically, to assess elements that could be improved. And so you may have a really amazing course already, but it can always be improved. Or you may have a course that where it needs a bunch of improvement, and that's okay too. So you just look at the rubric as a framework to help you target, pinpoint areas within the course that could use some improvement, and then it assists you with some resources to help you think about how you might actually approach improving that particular standard. So it's a continuous improvement process. You're never done. It's, you determine what needs improvement, either individually, or have someone do it for you, or in a peer environment, or in a training environment, and then you select some of the things that you would like to work on for that iteration of the course. It doesn't mean you have to fix everything that you've identified. Of course, you can if you want, but if you can't for whatever reason, you just select the things that you would like to improve, and then work on it, time over time, to continuously improve the design of that course. So I just wanted to mention that briefly so that you're aware that this is not a way to evaluate faculty or evaluate courses. It's intended to look at the instructional design of the course and provide information and suggestions and resources on how each of the particular standards in the rubric could be improved. And it's also unique in that it's intended to be able to be implemented in a wide variety of course quality types of initiatives. So it might be as a self-assessment, as I mentioned, that faculty do right after they deliver their course for the first time. And that could be part of your faculty development process, that they do a self-assessment after they teach their course the first time. Or it could be in a training situation, a faculty development situation, or it could be that the instructional designer does it for the instructor, or you have a group of peer faculty who get together and review each other's courses and provide input and feedback to the improvement of the course. And you could also do cross-disciplinary models. So OSCQR is designed intentionally to accommodate any type of review initiative. All right, so that's enough of that, I think. Let's go to our activity, which is going to be the brainstorming activity that I mentioned. And so this is like a hands-on thing. So I need you to go to this bit.ly, and Erin is going to put it in the chat. And this bit.ly is going to take you to a folder. And in that folder, you're going to locate the small group discussion planning document, which is this one here, small group discussion planning. So once you get into the folder, locate the small group discussion planning document. And then once you're there, you will see this document here, small group discussion. So hopefully, is everyone is anyone having any trouble locating? All right, I see some people joining. Okay, cool, good. All right, so for this activity, I want you to think of it. We're preparing you to create your own implementation plan. So this brainstorming is going to help you think about things that need to be considered in your plan. So, I'm going to take 10 minutes for this activity. And it's a collaborative activity, so everyone has access to this document and can type on this document. And so the first question has to do with who are your stakeholders. And I see people are already typing. So so go ahead and you can start typing if you want. I want to then tell you, once you've done that, you're going to go on to the next question, which is which model of course review will work best for the scope and scale and context of your initiative. So how are you going to do the reviews of the courses using OSCQR? Is it going to be informal? Is it going to be more formal? Is it going to be a peer review model or a multidisciplinary model? So you need to think about your own context and document what you think is going to make the most sense in your context based on what you want to achieve with your implementation plan and your campus culture and how things work at your campus currently. So that's the second question. And you don't have to do these questions in order. Then I want you to think about what's your timeline. When do you want to have the courses ready for delivery that have been reviewed as a part of this implementation plan? Is that a year from now? What's a realistic start to your plan, the implementation of your plan, not the designing of the implementation plan, but to actually deliver the courses that will result from your implementation plan. And then the last question is, has to do with policy. So, what policies and institutional organizational structures or procedures have to be taken into account for any aspect of this initiative to be successful? So, try and think what would be necessary for you to be able to implement a plan on a larger scale addressing some initiative around online course quality. All right, so I'm going to set a timer, and if you need to ask a question, go right ahead. The timer will be set for 10 minutes, and go. You can go ahead and get off mute if you want to ask a question, um, or you can post it in the chat, and I'll check chat. And I'm not sure who's copying this entire document, but you can just make a copy of it if you want it. You just do file, make copy, and
Yeah, if you can not highlight everything, that'd be great.
yeah,
Sorry.
I don't know who's doing that. So whoever has the whole thing highlighted, that would be awesome to undo that. Maybe they don't realize they have it highlighted. Yeah, you can just make copies of all of these documents if you want your own. You could make a copy of the entire
It
folder.
wasn't highlighted. It was actually somebody made it brown. They did like an actual highlight, not like
Oh,
copying it all. Weird, but it's all good.
yeah.
Fixed.
Great, great, great. All right, I'll let you continue with your brainstorming. Um,
So one of the things I've been talking to my new AVPA about is the fact that what is an expectation I have of faculty, which I is a little ambitious, and so the need for a year-long scaffold versus something that I think and I can do personally in my own classes within like an afternoon is going to take a lot longer for to roll out wide due to technological skills, but also like it's a cultural shift too.
sure.
And so that's something we've been talking a lot about because I've been getting impatient. Which I know as like an instructional designer is like which is why I lean more heavily I think into the LMS admin side of things, but it is something that I've been kind of brainstorming a lot with right, because it's realistic. Like I can do things because I'm in the LMS all the time. It's kind of where I live. But what we're asking, when we're asking, even though it's can be systematized and we can break it down in chunks, when we're asking them to do a heavy lift for something they maybe never have done or been asked to since we've had so much change in leadership, it is overwhelming. And so we've been working on how to break this down into bite-sized chunks. I mean, we've talked a little bit about even pushback on something as simple as like, a syllabus template. And I don't know, I'm optimistic, I think, but it is interesting to think about navigating the personalities and the needs because they're also overworked. Faculty are
Yep,
constantly overworked.
yep,
So
yep. Yeah, so it's important to think about what's realistic given your culture and your context, and what is it that you're going to be asking them to do, and have they ever done anything like that before? Do they have the technical skills? Do they have the support necessary? What's the time frame? All of those things will factor into an implementation plan that is, I mean, the whole point of it is to create a plan that can be implemented, right? I mean,
yeah, we
you
want
know,
to improve our courses, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
offering. Like my thing is like, I think like my goal is to what I feel like other schools where they're at, like I want us to get there, but at the same time, it's like this wouldn't exist if every other school was already there, right? Like it's about a continuous improvement so that
yeah,
we enhance our offerings. And so I think also one of the things that is important, and I know it's mentioned within the materials, is that faculty buy-in early on.
right.
That I think, and having the one of the things we struggle with as a school with without a union is we really want to make sure our faculty has governance over the materials and policies, and things that we change, but at the same time also holding ourselves to standards, right? This brings us into a lot of compliance with accreditation standards that maybe have been, dropped out. We might not have been doing accessibility checks in all of our courses, things like
Right.
that. And these are
Right.
all ways we can get us there, but to get that buy-in, because it is work and people are learning new skills as always, it's a dance.
Yep. Yep. I see some good input here. Yeah, I love seeing this one here about accessibility. Um, that would be an excellent use of this implementation plan to try and get your courses and your faculty, in compliance by April 2026, which is the DOJ deadline for making everything online, web accessible or accessible to. So that would be a really good targeted initiative, right? I think I mentioned you could also use it to address regular and substantive interaction, another compliance um, measure, um, some general improvements sort of across the board to improve engagement, let's say, or interaction in general. You know, there's lots of different ways that you could, as many different ways as there are people in the room right now for how you might target your implementation plan. And if you've never done something systematic and regular like course reviews on a schedule, I think I saw somebody had written getting on a 3-year rotation. Um, that's going to take time to design and to plan and to get the buy-in that you need. So that's what this workshop really is about, thinking all of that through, what you need to do in order to be able to implement something that's on a bit of a larger scale with a bit of a larger scope, and dealing with all of the idiosyncrasies of your campus culture and context that need to be attended to in order for something like this to be successful. And so this is intended to help you put together a plan that thinks through all of those things, and helps you put together a plan that's actually implementable. So let me see how much time we have going here. We've got about 3 minutes left. Okay. All right, so I see a lot of good input here, a lot of good ideas. This is a collaborative document that you'll have access to beyond the end of this workshop. But if you're, worried or concerned about losing the thoughts, you can simply make a copy of this document of your own by doing file and make copy so that you can continue to have access to this. I see initially, the names of folks for this initial question, who are your stakeholders? These would be people who would be impacted directly and or indirectly to any sort of initiative. So including instructional designers, program coordinators, deans, department chairs, AVPs, of course, the faculty and the students, and all manner of administrators. IT might be involved and need buy-in, your OER library folks, accessibility officers, any accrediting, individuals, who are your accreditors or folks involved in the accreditation process, your TAs and your adjunct faculty. That's a good list. Um, so some information around the scope and scale, as well as the type of model that you might be using. So you can see there's kind of a wide variety of types of models that are out there. One campus, it's going to need to be informal. If you don't have standards already, then this implementation plan could help you to initiate a program around the review of courses. And if it's around accessibility, I think that's also true. It can be focused on accessibility. And if you're not the person who's in the position to initiate an implementation plan like this is something that you could perhaps take to, whoever that entity might be, whether it is the online learning office, the distance learning office, or whoever on your campus is helping to manage the online initiatives, to share with them the information about how what the need is, and how some of these tools might assist in putting together a framework to assist you to do something on a larger scale regarding ensuring quality in the instructional design of the courses, whether that's focused on accessibility or on some other aspect of quality. Here someone wants to do a more formal plan to do refreshes, to help faculty do refreshes, and to focus on RSI, UDL, accessibility, and pedagogy, and so forth. A lot of good input here, addressing the concern that faculty may have about critiquing their course. That's a cultural thing, and as a part of any good implementation plan, this activity of identifying stakeholders is so important, to understand who they are, what the context and issues are, and how what is going to actually what's going to take to be able to get buy-in from all of the different stakeholders. So including faculty who may have some trepidation about it in the implementation planning team would be, a good practice for transparency and to help get buy-in from key stakeholders at the faculty level to help spread correct understanding about what you're actually trying to do with the plan, and to help engage the faculty in the process fully, so that they understand what is going on and why, and so forth. So yeah, self-review and peer review processes are really good, especially with faculty who have some of those types of concerns. My recommendation is in implementing OSCQR at a campus, just you know, when you're first starting to do that, having faculty do a self-assessment with the rubric is a very good formative and summative activity as part of your faculty development processes. So they would get introduced to OSCQR as they develop their course. So none of the standards are a surprise to them, and they're kind of designing their course to those standards, with an understanding of what those standards might be or are. And then to have them, after they teach the course, think about what worked in their course related to the design of it, and what could be improved, and to use the rubric as a self-assessment. And then, they can either improve the course on their own or improve it with the help of an instructional designer, or do it in a training environment with other faculty and an instructional designer, or do it with, at a departmental level with peers or multidisciplinary activities. So there's lots of different ways to sort of initiate understanding of how to implement OSCQR to address the instructional design of courses. So the self-review and peer processes are very good for faculty who may have some questions and concerns about the process. So timelines are going to vary, obviously, depending on what your plan entails, and what you are able to do based on what needs to be done in order to clear any roadblocks that you may have, or address any issues, or like policies or whatever. You may need some time to get resources or policies in place, or to assemble a team, or to initiate activities that are precursor to actually being able to implement. Every context is going to be different. And so you need to make sure to think through what that realistic timeline is. So if your budgetary process is coming up at the beginning of July, but the allocations were already determined and made, 6 months ago, you may need to wait a year before you can, get the resources in place in order to do whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So you need to think through realistically what it's going to take in order to actually implement your plan. And then here's a list of some policies. Also will be very dependent on your context, but good to see what other folks at other institutions are grappling with. And then, yeah, some additional notes there regarding expectations and compensation, etc. So, if there is no compensation, how are you going to design it so that it is achievable? And if there is, do you have the budget in place to allocate to all the different things that you might need to allocate resources to? So, like I said, this document is yours to have beyond the end of this workshop. I also, in that folder, have put an example document of all of every time I do this workshop, I take all of the input from the latest group and I put it into this document so you can see what other folks have identified, just in case. I recommend that you review this when you're assembling your group of stakeholders, just in case you might have missed thinking of someone, some role, some group, and having distinctions between types of roles within groups. So this is a long list that was put together from past iterations of this workshop, just so that you know, right? And so this is your example document. You can check your own list against this list, in other words, to see if you've missed anyone. And then I did that also with all of the questions. So this might also reading what others had to say about the type of implementation that they were trying to design for. You might also get some ideas from how other folks are thinking about or planning to design their implementation planning activities, their online course quality improvement activities. So there's a lot here. I invite you to come back when you're doing this for yourself to um, to just check against what you have thought and see if there's any ideas that get spurred by reading what other folks have documented. Timeline, again, that's going to be dependent, very, very context dependent on your campus, your culture, whether you've been doing online for a long time, whether you have things in place already or not, whether you're familiar with OSCQR or not, all of those kinds of things will go into the timeline estimation. And then policies, you might want to take a close look at this one too, to see if there's anything that you've missed from brainstorming your own list, and see if there's anything here that you might want to consider adding to your list. And I think that's it here. So at some point or another, I'll take everything that came from yours and I will add it to this example document so that your input will be represented there as well. And again, this example document is in that folder that I mentioned that has all of the documentation for this workshop. It's all in that folder. So you'll have access to this example document as well beyond the end of this, this webinar. All right, so I think that we are ready to now have you go get your implementation plan. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is to go to that folder, and Erin will put the link in the chat again, and you're going to go, that's the link, OSCQR implementation plan, and it is case sensitive. It's a bit.ly that's case sensitive. And then I want you to open up the document that's called Template Online Course Quality Implementation Plan. And I'm going to go over to that folder now and show you where it is. It's right here. Template Online Course Quality Implement. It doesn't have the whole title there, but that's the one you want. It's labeled template. And once you hit on that, you will access this document here. And this is the implementation plan. And what I want you to do is to, once you're on this page, I want you to go to File and Make Copy. And once you do that, you will have a copy of this document, which is a template of an implementation plan. And I'm going to spend a lot of time in this webinar going through this template with you so that you understand how to use it and what you would need to do in order to customize this for yourself. So I see a bunch of people have landed on here. And if you're having any trouble accessing, just let me know. And I think Erin must have put the link in the chat for this already also. So I want to make sure you get your copy of it. So you have to land on this page and then File, Make Copy. And that's going to be your implementation plan that you are going to be able to customize. I won't have access to it. It's a Google Doc. It'll be in your Google Drive, and it'll be yours to keep and to do with as you like, to customize in any way that you would like. So I want to make sure that you get your copy. All right. So what we're going to do now is talk about how to use this template. And I'm going to give you an overview of the different template sections. And you're going to see, how you can take this template and begin to customize it for yourself. So the first thing you can do, once you've made a copy of it, is put the name of your institution here. Anything that's in italic you want to think about modifying to you. So if this is the first time you've done it, then it would be your first version. And then you would date it with whatever the date is that you want to give it for to begin, whatever the date is that you'd like to put there. And obviously, you can change that date. You could put today's date in it, but you can change it if this process takes you, some months to pull together. You might want to update that date at some point. All right, so this is really a template, and it really is an implementation plan, and it starts out with a table of contents. And the main sections are sort of an acknowledgement or introductory section. It talks about the purpose, and it talks about communications and things about OSCQR and organizational awareness and communications processes, impact and reporting, program evaluation and improvements, how you measure success, budget, staff, and resources. And then there are signature pages and sections for appendices. This is a proper implementation plan for a larger scale online course quality initiative. So in the introductory section, what you would do in your own copy is provide an overview and history of the initiative. You are providing context for why this initiative is necessary and important, and some of the factors or things that came before historically that have led to this moment where you want and need to focus and implement, focus on a plan to improve quality in some way of your online offerings. And you also are going to want to list the members of your team that are helping you do this. And if you're, whoever it is that you have at a larger institution, you might have some sort of a distance learning advisory group. If you don't have an advisory group, you would want to pull one together with all of those stakeholders that we brainstormed, having, making sure that there's representation from all of the stakeholders in your advisory group. So you can use one that already exists, or you can build one for this purpose. But in this plan, you would list the members of the team here. In terms of this acknowledgement, this is just boilerplate. If you're going to be using OSCQR in any way in this implementation plan, this is documentation of aspects around OSCQR and the license and so forth. And so, you would just leave that alone. Again, the key is if it's in italics, you want to customize it. If it's not in italics, it's just part of the plan. All right, so then we want to talk a little bit about the purpose of the plan. So in the introduction, that was sort of historical context, and this is more about why this initiative is needed. And so you would fill that out, and that could be written by a small group of people, or it could be written by an individual. It could be drafted by an individual and then floated to the team to review and have edits and input into it. But whatever it is regarding the purpose, you would then copy and paste that in this section here under purpose. And then for communications, you'd want to document how you're going to present this initiative to your campus population, your campus stakeholders, everybody, and to engage them and to solicit input from them. You have to think that through. How are you gonna do that? And then what are you going to communicate regarding the objectives of the initiative with your campus stakeholders, and how are you going to publicize sort of either milestones or successes or initiating activities, those kinds of things. How are you going to make sure that there are regular communications that are going out to the broader stakeholders, not the ones that are on your group or your team, but to the entire campus community so that they're aware of what is going on and what the status is of things regarding the initiative. And then here's a draft of a statement that could be used. You could, modify this to your campus. So you replace the word campus with your campus and just, modify this statement. And then you could use this as one of the pieces of information that gets distributed to folks to help explain and publicize the efforts of the initiative. So this is just, if this isn't how you want to do it, just delete this, right? So this is just an example and something to help guide you if you want to have something to modify. But if not, you can just go ahead and take this out and you could put whatever it is you are going to use in your plan in the place of this. So then you're going to want to document the initiative's goals, right? What are the specific goals? And we've already talked about, one of the focuses of the plan might be accessibility to meet the April 26th deadline. It might be RSI to demonstrate compliance with that regulation. It might be that you want to put welcome videos in every course that you have to improve engagement and presence. And so, that could be the focus of your initiative. You might want to focus on general interaction between students and between the student and the instructor and between the instructor and the student. You might want to just focus on interaction. So that might mean reviewing all of the discussion questions and activities that are within the courses to see if they can be improved in any way. Do you want to just improve overall quality? Is this a part of a continuous improvement, cyclical process that is implemented, across all of the courses? Every 3 years, a course gets formally reviewed, let's say, something like that. So you need to talk about in this section, what are your specific goals for the initiative and articulate that, plainly and clearly. You want to think about, in terms of the initiative, how are you addressing new online course design and development from courses that already exist? So you want to think about those separately because they have separate needs. If you have a lot of existing courses, the plan for those existing courses is going to look different than if you have a lot of new courses that you're developing, or maybe it's a few new courses that are being developed, or maybe you're just starting out and you don't have any existing online courses. So you have to, consider separately how you're going to deal with new faculty course design as well as existing courses that are out there, and what the goals are for both of those groups, or for one of those groups if the focus is just on one of those groups. So what's your approach? And how are you going to adapt it or implement it? What's the model, the course review and refresh model? Again, is it self-assessment? Is it peer review? Is it multidisciplinary review? Is it formal? Is it informal? Does the instructional designer do it? Does the instructor do it? How do they do that? Like, all the details around that. What's the model that you're going to standardize on for this initiative? You may have multiple models out there, but for this implementation plan, what's the model? And then how are you going to adopt or adapt OSCQR if you are? So if you've never used OSCQR before, you're going to need to think through how you're going to adopt it at the scale or the level that this implementation plan covers. And then how are you going to adapt it, either the model of review and refresh or the rubric itself? Do you need to make any customizations to the rubric itself? And who's going to do that? How are they going to do that? Is it done by that committee or is it done by a faculty group? Is it done by the instructional designer? How are you going to adapt OSCQR to your needs, your campus culture, maybe it's at the program level. For example, maybe your nursing program, which is fully online, has some specific standards specific to their accrediting body, whoever is in charge of all of the standards that are associated with the nursing program. So that wouldn't be applicable to all of your courses. It would just be to the nursing courses. So you would want to adapt OSCQR to include additional standards related to that nursing program. And so, yeah, so you're thinking about what the modifications are, who's going to make them? Are you going to develop different rubrics for different programs or different disciplines or different departments? And who's going to make those determinations and how? And that has to factor into your timeline as well as into your communications and into the planning process. So you need to make sure to think about all of those things. And then you want to talk a little bit about why you're adopting OSCQR. And honestly, you can use this implementation plan, just take the word OSCQR out and put something else in there if you wanted to. It could even be used not around course quality. It's kind of a generic implementation plan model. But if it is around OSCQR, you want to talk about why you're adopting OSCQR. And in the folder, I have some documentation for you that you can use to help explain some of the process, the aspects around OSCQR, which it's not just a rubric, it's also a process. It's also a bunch of materials and resources, and it's evidence-based and endorsed by OLC and has been and is being used by thousands of people all over the world. Those kinds of things to help build the case of why you are choosing to use OSCQR. It's free and openly licensed, so you can modify it. There's all kinds of stuff that you could put in to this rationale for why you have, if you have decided to go with OSCQR. The video is a part of that too, to help share information around OSCQR. And all of that information is on the OSCQR website, as well as in that folder that I mentioned. There's materials in the folder, and all the information is on the OSCQR website, including that video that I mentioned. All right, so let me just show you over here. This is the OSCQR website, and in the About page, you have information about OSCQR, the OSCQR process, how OSCQR is unique, and the video is on here too. So there's all kinds of stuff about how it's unique from other rubrics that you can leverage in your rationale piece. And here's the video on the first About page that you can share with folks. And then, where were we here? Yeah, so again, in this section, you're going to want to think about your organizational awareness and approvals and communication. So you'll take that list that we came up with, and use the information that you gathered here. Now, this is where, for example, you can do that same brainstorming activity that we just did with your distance learning task group, or whoever it is that is your advisory board or group, however you label them. You could do that same activity to come up with your key stakeholders as you initiate the development of this plan. So you would just run the same activity, take a copy of that brainstorming Google Doc, remove the things that were in there, or if you took a copy of it before it was populated, and then distribute that to everyone at a meeting and do a brainstorming activity, just like we did, 10 minutes to collect the key stakeholders and answer all of those questions, so that you get a sense from everyone who's in your committee, in your board, in your group, of what the big questions are that would need to go in as a pre-step to designing the implementation plan. so you would take that document and run that brainstorming activity, and then you could use that to, you know, complete some of this information, and you know, think through some of these questions. What are the benefits to faculty? What are your incentives? How are you updating your key stakeholders and leadership? You want to take an inventory of your existing policies, processes, any of the resources that might be necessary, any approvals that might be necessary, any procurements that might be necessary. What are your goals? What are your key dates for different things? And you know, you could start out by saying, I want to have all these courses ready for delivery on this date, but then you work back through the timeline and realize that that's not doable. So that's what needs to go into this piece: is how are you thinking about the key dates, and are they realistic? And then you want to, you know, get whatever approvals you might need, work on buy-in, getting included in different meetings and agendas to be transparent, and think through all of these things and document that. So you would remove this text, this italic text, and you would put in place, you know, responses to these questions. So the example reviewer communications, I have here in that folder, I have an example set of communications that you could send out, or adapt, and consider, you know, how you initiate an OSCQR course review and refresh initiative. So this is adapted from a program that we ran, and so this was the first email that we sent out to all the faculty to let them know that they had the opportunity to participate in this project, in this program. See how I said that? They have the opportunity to participate in this program. And in our case, it was voluntary. It might not be voluntary in your case, it depends. But we were soliciting participants essentially in this. And so we sent out this note to ask if they would be interested in participating. Once we got the list of folks that were interested, we sent out the notes to folks who would be peer reviewers, and so it's a little more detail about what they're going to need to be doing regarding a peer review process. And then after we got them to agree to it, we got our list of people who have agreed to it. We then sent them this note with the next steps on what they need to do. These are kind of the instructions for them to conduct their peer review process. Now, we did more than just send out these 3 emails. We trained people, you know, we attended meetings and explained things. We had different vehicles, but I just wanted to share this with you as a couple of communications that we sent out related to this part of the implementation plan that you could adapt or just read to see, you know, how we did it, in case you're interested in that. All right, so let's go on to the next section of the plan, which is adopting and adapting OSCQR. So again, you have your key stakeholders, and you may use them to review and or adapt OSCQR standards to your campus and the context of this implementation plan, right? If you're really focusing on accessibility and accessibility only, you might want to just use the standards in the OSCQR rubric related to accessibility. So you would modify the rubric to highlight those. You might add some that you have that are, you know, ones that you come up with, and use that. So you need to, you know, consider how it's going to be adapted. And if you've never used OSCQR before, you want to consider how to roll out the adoption of the tool. And do you roll it out to new faculty so that they can see the standards as they're developing their new online course? Or is it intended for a specific initiative, like I just said, described the one about accessibility, or are you rolling it out to a specific degree program or a specific department? Or is this more, across the entire institution, kind of as a systematic way to address online quality and consistency, across the whole institution? So you have to think that through. How are you going to be adapting and adopting OSCQR? And then you want to think through what are some of the professional development needs that emerge as a result of wanting to do this larger scale initiative. Do you need to train and certify your instructional design staff? And how are you going to do that? And so I had two options, obviously, are certification through us. We offer a certification in OSCQR as a self-assessment certification, that as a course reviewer, and then as a OSCQR trainer. So there's 3 different certifications that you could consider. We also have offered this is more information on the certificates. And if you're within SUNY, the certification process, the whole process, there's no charge for that. You can use it with your faculty if you want. You could train you could have us train all your faculty if you want. There's no charge for that. The instructional designers could go through the whole process of becoming trainers or becoming reviewers. If you're not from SUNY, we have a small fee attached to it because the certification requires evidence, and that evidence requires a review and kind of vetting of the fact that you actually completed what was necessary in order to earn the badge, the certification. So I think it's $50 if you're not from within SUNY. And then the CPD also offers this instructional design certificate program, which you might consider as a way to help to professionalize the role of your instructional designers, make sure they have the credentials and the knowledge that they need in order to help you to implement a larger scale project like this. Let's see, where are we here? That was this page. And the course reviewer network. So this has to do with developing your review model and for either new or existing courses. And here's sort of a, bunch of different types of models that we've already talked about, but these are just points on a continuum. There can be any combination of these bullets here. So they're not meant to be exhaustive or it's just to illustrate that there are lots of different models, course review models, but you can modify and combine aspects of these. So one of the things that we did, we created a course reviewer network, and I want to show you, how we did that. We collected the names from across our SUNY system of folks who would be willing to be course reviewers to other people's courses and even at other campuses. And so, for example, Donna, I don't know, Donna, are you in the room? You might be in the room. Teaches computer science at SUNY Niagara, and she's willing to review any course in any discipline. She's an instructional designer at Niagara County Community College, and she has listed her availability, and these are her experience. This is her experience, and she's a certified OSCQR reviewer. And so we have this list here of everybody who has volunteered in every discipline that we've collected. So you can see the different disciplines here. And the way we developed this list was with a simple Google form. And we just, we probably did webinars around this to explain what we were looking for, and then we created this form and collected information from our community of practice for folks who were interested in being part of that reviewer network. And so all of that information that you just saw that I listed from Donna, all of that information was just collected here, and then we used this form to populate a website that lists, all of the information around their availability and their areas of expertise and their discipline and so forth. So these links and these things are available to you to review at your leisure. Just want to make sure you know that. And this is just one of the ways that we were able to accomplish the review process without having to add staff, right? We called for volunteers from across our system. It might be for you across your campus to build up a group of people who would be willing to review other courses. And this was one of the mechanisms that we used because we had constraints just like everybody else, and we're not able to add staff based on the numbers of courses that we needed to get reviewed. So that was just one one example of how we did it. So I want to share with you now, we're going to continue in the implementation plan, and you want to think about online course, the online course quality review process for existing online courses. We talked earlier about the needs for new online courses. So those folks get introduced formatively to the rubric and then maybe do the self-assessment as a sort of culminating activity for their course design process. They get introduced to this culture of continuous improvement. So, you develop it and you teach it and then you review, and then you find some things to fix, and then you fix those things, you teach it again, and then you come back to your list and review what worked and what needs to be improved. And so you have this culture of continuous improvement that you're building amongst your new development. For your existing online courses and faculty, you want to think through how you're going to address that in a more systematic, consistent way, the review and improvement of existing online courses. And so, what are the expectations that you have, or agreements that you have, either with your reviewers or with the faculty? And I have here in the folder an example PowerPoint that we put together of 3 different OSCQR implementations at 3 different types of campuses. And so there's a lot of detail here. I'm going to just briefly show you what's here so that you can remember. We have information from Binghamton University, which is a large research university in our system. We have a small community college in a rural area, and then we have a large community college in more of a metropolitan type area. This is from the Rochester, New York area. It's quite a large commuter campus. So each one of these campuses, the slides describe how they went about implementing their OSCQR review and refresh program. And so I'm just going to leave this here so that you know that it's here, and so that you can come back to it and take a look at how these 3 campuses approached implementing a larger scale course quality review and refresh process. So again, you want to, if you're implementing something that's targeting experienced online faculty, you want to make sure that your reviewers, whoever's going to be doing the review, whether it's peer faculty or instructional design staff, you want to make sure that they have certifications and the training and the skills necessary in the use of OSCQR or whatever it is that you're doing with the course. Accessibility would be another thing, but you want to make sure that they have the credentials and the skills to implement the program for you. So another example that I have for you is an example guide to the Oscar process. And this is something also that we developed when we were implementing our own larger scale course quality initiative across multiple institutions in SUNY. And this is just here as an example to you of how we did it. Not saying that you should do it this way. It's just an example. It was our context, our objectives. And so this is just here as an example to show you how we presented this to campuses, faculty, and instructional designers to get buy-in and to help explain what we were trying to do, and to sort of illustrate what the process was going to be if they participated. So I'm going to leave that there for you to explore on your own as well. And then we're moving on to impact and reporting. We want to make sure that as you design your implementation plan, you're considering how you're going to measure, what you're going to measure, how you're going to report it out. You might want to coordinate with your Office of Institutional Research or Evaluation and Assessment folks. And how, to who are you going to report to, and how are you going to do that? Is there an annual report where something could go in? Are there departmental communications that go out? Do you have a strategic planning process where this might be relevant? In your budgetary processes, might there be some needs that you have that should be incorporated into that process, and who is in charge of making sure that that gets into those processes, both strategic and budgetary? And are you undergoing currently any accreditation reviews or self-studies, and how can you incorporate some of this work into that, so that you're not duplicating efforts, that you're leveraging the efforts from this implementation plan for other aspects of campus activities, right? So you want to think that through. So all this is in italics. So that's meant for you to replace this text with information on how you're going to address measuring impact and report and making your reports. How are you going to improve things along the way in terms of this plan? So you want to put a plan in place to periodically look at the plan and see, are you on track? Does something need to be modified? Did something happen that you didn't anticipate, and so you have to modify things, and dates might change, or context might change? So how are you going to make sure that you stay on track with your plan? And I always like to think about, what's working and what can be improved, and to do that periodically so that you stay on track and don't get derailed because something pushes you off the rails that was unanticipated. And then how are you going to measure and celebrate and recognize success? And this is an important one, I think, because a larger scale initiative around these things really needs to have some kind of recognition and demonstration that it's appreciated and valued, the efforts, especially if you're in a context where faculty can't be compensated, in a real tangible way. I mean, maybe there's extra service, or maybe there is the opportunity to reduce load, or maybe there's it's just volunteer. So how are you going to recognize those efforts and celebrate the successes? So I'm going to show you some stuff that we did, and it's all these links here of how we recognize folks from within our community of practice for the various activities that they contribute to or volunteer with in. And one of the ways that we do this is with badges. And so badges are, we've designed an ecosystem of badges that not just recognize competency development or professional development activities, but also recognize roles within our community of practice, membership and contributions to that community of practice, and we actually use them to incentivize behaviors within our community of practice. I'm showing you here the collection of OSCQR badges just because we're in an OSCQR webinar, but we have a number of badges that we offer, and you'll be able to come back here and look at any of this documentation, but we have a number of badges that we offer for a variety of activities. And so, for example, we have effective practice awards, and we do this on an annual basis. We offer awards that are community voted on. We also have courses for observation. So from the courses that were reviewed and improved with our initiative, we had a few nominated for to be courses for observation that are then made available to anyone in the system to take a look at, and they've been OSCQR reviewed and vetted. And so this is another way that we share information across the community and recognize exemplary work. And we have criteria for this and a process for collecting these. They're nominated by their campus instructional designers, these courses. We don't select them. And then we have our community of practice fellows. And you will be invited. If you're not from SUNY, you'll be invited to join as a friend of SUNY. We love our friends of SUNY. And I saw a number of you here. And then if you are within SUNY, you can self-select into any one of these roles. And it's just simply a way for us to recognize the roles that people play within our community of practice. So you might just be interested, you might be well experienced, you might be an expert ID, you might be a faculty who wants to be a mentor, you might be a researcher or some sort of an innovator in the online teaching and learning world. So you can join our community of practice simply by filling out that form. And we also recognize our online teaching ambassadors, and this is the group that just was identified for 2025. Every campus can nominate two faculty from online faculty from their campus for this recognition. And the main criteria for this award is that they be enthusiastic about teaching online and willing to share that enthusiasm. That's it. And then they get to connect with us over the course of the year and do different things. They can do a blog post, they can do a video tour of their course, they can do we have all kinds of ideas for what faculty who are ambassadors can do. They could just do a brown bag lunch at their own campus, or if they don't have time, they don't need to do anything. But we offer these opportunities to the ambassadors so that they can share their enthusiasm with the community. And then I already showed the collections of badges. This is our mentoring program. So within the mentoring, these are faculty that doesn't appear to be working at the moment, but we have faculty who have said that they would be willing to mentor other faculty. And similar to the reviewer network, the course reviewer network, we collected information from faculty who are within our system who would like to mentor other faculty. And we put this here as a self-service way for them to meet each other, connect with each other, and get mentoring that they might want from another instructor who has more experience, obviously. And we do fellow chat, so that's one of the ways that the experienced faculty can share what they know. They can do a webinar for us on a topic of their choice or interest, and share that with the entire SUNY Online community. And we do those. I think we do one per month of those fellow chats. And again, this was opportunities for faculty to share their enthusiasm. So when they have something that they want to share, we provide them with a number of different vehicles for sharing that enthusiasm. So those are some of the ways that we've done it. I'm not saying that you have to do any of these things. I'm not even suggesting that you should do any of these things. It's just a way to think about how you are going to recognize success amongst the folks who are contributing to this initiative, and to give some thought to that and to plan that out. How are you going to, demonstrate that you value the efforts and the contributions and the work that is involved from your various stakeholders, from the team that helped you create the implementation plan, from the faculty who had their courses reviewed or who did the reviews, from the instructional designers who participated. How are you going to recognize and celebrate all of the work that they did? All right, we're getting to the end here. We're at the budget page, and obviously any implementation plan is going to need to have a budget. And so I want you to think through some of these questions. And these, again, this is in italics, so you would delete this and put what's relevant to your initiative here, but you want to talk about the scope and scale of the initiative. Do you need additional staff? Are you considering this a pilot? Is it going to be a phased approach? What does that look like and entail? What are the faculty agreements? Do you have the ability to give some sort of a stipend or some sort of a reduction in load, or however it is that if there is any way that you can compensate the faculty for their time. What are the reviewer agreements that you might have with people who are doing the reviews? Are there stipends that you can provide to them? Or what is the nature of the agreement? Because you want to make sure you actually have an agreement. If someone is saying they're going to do a review for you and do it on a certain timeline, you need to make sure that there's an agreement in place that that they sign, so that you can ensure that your plan gets carried out in a timely manner. And then what kinds of tools or services do you need? If this is an accessibility initiative, do you need to have a closed captioning service, and how are you going to resource that, and how are you going to implement that process in a consistent and systematic way? Do you have any need for videography? I mentioned um, enhancing the interaction of a course by adding a welcome video to every course, every online course. So do you need a videographer for that, or are you going to do a training where you train the faculty to do a screen cast from their own personal computer? So it depends on if it's a more formal process or an informal process, and what are the resources that you need for that. Even if you are asking faculty to do it themselves, what tool are you going to use, and is there a cost for that tool? And is there any review of that video to make sure it meets your standards and your criteria for good practice and for accessibility? So you want to think through, if this is a new initiative, who is the person, who is the target person, and how much of their time is it going to take? Who are your instructional designers, and how much of their time is it going to take? Who's going to be your OSCQR coordinator if you need someone to play that role? Do you need someone for videography and multimedia? Do you need an accessibility expert? Do you need copyright expertise, and where is that coming from, and how is that being resourced? Do you need somebody to help you with Google in order to customize OSCQR? OSCQR is an application online, and you need to, if you want to modify things in the interactive version, you likely need a Google developer to do that. There's no cost for OSCQR, which is nice, but closed captioning services might be something. The accessibility tools that you might have or need to adopt or adapt. Crudly for badging is a tool that we pay for, and so we have a lot of things around badging. So that's an ongoing expense that should be in any plan. And then your training and your professional development for your instructional designers, for your faculty, and also ongoing, certification processes that you might be engaged in, any membership associations that you might want to have your staff or your faculty plug it into. You need to think through all of the things that would go into your budget. And then, of course, there's, your plan gets submitted and signed by the appropriate individuals. And then you have slots here for an organizational structure of your group, your course reviewer expectations and agreement. So I have a resource here that talks through, it's in the folder, and there's a link to it in the plan that talks through the process that we used for conducting course reviews when we did this on a larger scale. So this is just an example. Again, you can take this as a copy example and modify it, or just check it against whatever it is you develop, and it's just there as an example. And then references, if any, and then key terms, if any, and then additional slots. So that really is, in a nutshell, the implementation plan. And then I see that it's 1:30, and I think that we are at time. I did want to show you some of the tools around OSCQR. So the main ones that you need to know about are all here. This one is, these are largely the design and layout standards, are mostly the accessibility standards, just if, FYI. There are a couple in a couple of the other sections, but the main accessibility standards all live under design and layout. So you can take a look at those as you like. I did want to show you the interactive rubric. So if you want the rubric as you can have it as a PDF, and you may be already familiar with the PDF version of the rubric. It's a fillable rubric, and it works fine for smaller scale activities. If you're going to do something larger scale, you might want to use the interactive rubric, and it's essentially the same thing. It's just online, and it's a spreadsheet, actually, a Google sheet that gives you a bunch of different tabs down here at the bottom that would, based on role. So this one would be for the instructional designer. There's one for the faculty. There's one for the reviewer. And what it does is it will, I already pre-filled this one out so that you could see. What it does is you fill it out just like you would the PDF, but it has some interesting little features that are interactive. So these little carrots here give some additional explanation of each of the standards. So you can see, you just click on the little carrot there, and it gives you additional information. And then over here on the right-hand side, it links directly to the standards that are on the OSCQR website that have the full explanation of the standard, and lots of information for suggesting ways to address a particular standard. The piece that is important for a larger scale initiative might be the dashboard. And if you haven't seen this yet, you can simply go to this link, fill out this form, and you can see it's just asking for your email address and the institution name, and you will get the dashboard. And I recommend that if you want to use the dashboard, that you contact me for a consultation so I can help you set your dashboard up. And my contact information is in the web folder there. But what it allows you to do is to generate rubrics. So each one of the things in this dashboard, this one is the introduction to watercolors, and there's a number of courses that are listed here. Intro to online teaching, French 2. So as the manager of a larger scale initiative, I created all of these rubrics, assigned them to these courses, and then assigned an ID, the faculty person and the reviewer, and I can track their work from this dashboard. So I can see here that on this intro to watercolors, everybody has completed their work. There's no time to refresh it's done. And so this course is ready to go. Intro to online teaching is nobody's done anything yet. And so that needs to get worked on. French, Some people have done some work on it. And so, yeah, so this allows you to track things at sort of like a managerial level, and can help you keep things straight and in place. Back on the rubric, I wanted to show you one of the other features of it is that it aggregates the feedback from all three of the tabs, the instructional designer, faculty, and reviewer tabs, and it will estimate the time to fix something. So, including a video and course tour, it's estimated at a quarter of an hour, I guess, and this is considered important. And if you look down the list, this one is considered essential. So this will help you prioritize either as an individual instructor doing a self-assessment, or as an instructional designer, or having a larger peer review or a multi-person review team. It'll help you prioritize the things to fix in the course for that particular iteration of the course. All right, so I think I am done, and we'll see if there's any questions. I'm stopping sharing for a second. Erin, any questions that I can respond to?
None have come up in the chat, but everyone is free to, who's still here is free to open up your mic or type in the chat, whatever you'd like, if you have questions.
It's okay.
We get used to it after a while.
Oh, Chrissy, yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of tabs. All right. Well, if you think of a question, just go ahead and unmute and ask. I'm gonna just show you a couple of the bonus things. If you want to join as a fellow, you can. If you want to join our networking community, we invite you to join the networking community. It's in Facebook, and super easy to join. We also have an OSCQR user group, and this is new. You're probably the third group or fourth group that we have invited into the OSCQR networking community. So I invite you so we can continue this conversation, beyond the end of this webinar. Where did it go? I think I lost it. So yeah, if you're interested in joining the user, here it is, the user group. You're welcome. You'll get some badges for participating in this webinar, as I mentioned at the outset. The experience badge. If you're not from SUNY, you'll get the Friend of SUNY badge. You'll also get this badge for attending this webinar. I think basically that's it. This is our website, the online teaching website. All of our webinars, we record them, whether they're the OSCQR series or the general online teaching series. So if you missed one this semester and want to catch up on it, we have a playlist of all of the webinars. And we will be doing these webinars again next semester. But if you can't wait until then, you can check out the YouTube videos. And
Alex, we have a question from Cheryl.
Sure.
She's just curious if this has been used with in-person courses, which also use an LMS to deliver learning content.
So yeah, you mean the rubric? So the rubric can be used with any, instruction that is online, synchronous or asynchronous. And if you're in a blended situation, the online components of it can be, you can use the standards with the online components of the course. Was that the question?
Yes, it seems so. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Cheryl.
if the course has modules or sections of the course that are online, and whether they're synchronous or asynchronous online, you can definitely apply these standards, because if it's an online, aspect of the course, you want to make sure that you have the information well documented, and that you're being accessible, and that you are presenting them in these, evidence-based best practices, to ensure that the online aspect of it is going to be successful and implemented as best as possible. Yeah, flipped classrooms, Alex, and web enhanced. Sure. Anything that's online, you just want to you'll have to, if you're the instructional designer, you might have to modify some things, because if there's certain things that are happening in the classroom that you're not going to reconceptualize or duplicate online, then you just want to remove those standards and focus in on the standards that make sense for the content that is online. Anyone else? Did I hit everything, Erin?
I believe so.
I think so. So I just do want to remind folks about the folder, and the this is the links document. So I showed it to you at the beginning. It's got all of the links that I showed you today on it, and the bit.lys and everything. It's in that folder, this document that has all of the, my computer's dragging right now, so it's not letting me scroll. There it goes. And then the folder itself, I'll just pop over to the folder. The folder itself has all of the stuff that I showed to you today also, also from that bit.ly to get into the folder. And this information is not going to go away. It'll be here, what beyond the end of this webinar and in the future, so that you can always come back to it. You can make a copy of anything, including the whole folder, if you want to. All of our stuff is openly licensed, so you can take this and modify it and use it however you would like to help you in whatever your online course quality, larger scale activities might be. I really appreciate everyone for coming and for spending your lunch with us, and hope to see you maybe at a future event or webinar, and love to hear from you on how you're using the implementation plan um, process, as well as any of the tools that are part of this, and would love to hear from you and how it went and how it's going. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm just sitting here in my kitchen, so I'd be happy to chat with you anytime.
Thank you, Alex. I'm excited to get to work. All these tools are going to totally help me with my process right now. So as I kind of do this transition, so I'm really excited to get working, and I'll of course keep you up to date and ask
Yeah,
and pick your brain as always. Thank you
absolutely,
so much for your
absolutely.
generosity.
You're welcome. Thank you, Alex. Nice to know that it's going to help. So I appreciate that.
Really, it will. Thank you. You have a good one, guys. Thank you
Thanks.
again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Brittany. Thanks,